Well, let's talk about who she did kiss. Let's talk about Shawn Michaels. We're going to get here eventually. Might as well, huh? What do you think?
Go ahead.
She wrote in her book that Shawn wasn't the rude guy that we may have heard about. At least he wasn't with her. He was very nice, and she claims she had a crush on him since she was a kid. But ironically, I don't know that you've even seen this, she wrote into a wrestling magazine in 1986 about her obsession with Marty Jannetty. Did you know that?
No.
Back when she was a fan, she actually wrote, it's in the back pages of one of those wrestling magazines, just like the fan letters. And the title is, Wants to Marry Marty Jannetty. First of all, I would like to compliment you on your magazine. It is one of the best. I've been a WWF fan for about 4 years. One Saturday morning, I decided to watch the AWA on TV. I'd never been interested in the AWA until I saw Marty Jannetty. I think he is the most gorgeous guy in the world. The problem is I cannot find any centerfolds, articles, or color posters of him in any wrestling magazine. Please tell me if he is married. I hope he isn't, because I want him. Tammy Sitch, Old Bridge, New Jersey.
I know you want me. Oh, what?
That's
all I know.
Okay.
I know you want me.
Anyway, there's a skit on TV planned where Shawn was going to act like he was going to kiss her and then diss her, quote unquote, right as they left the air. But once they were off the air, with her prior consent, he kissed her for real, and they basically made out in the middle of the ring with him laying on top of her in a scene that Meltzer described in his newsletter as Shawn, quote unquote, basically having sex with her. Afterwards, here's what she writes in her book. I had a pretty good idea where this was going and what his intentions were, and I was right. Later that evening, he pulled me into an empty locker room and kissed me and felt me and groped me. And then, like a high school kid, he fucked me. Yep, he banged me. Right there in the locker room. It was so dirty and so not allowed within the crew, and that made it even better. Oh my God, it was mind-blowing sex, and that was the beginning of the love affair that would lead to my broken heart. We were all over each other. We had sex everywhere and anywhere, for every show. In empty locker rooms, vacant bathrooms, broom closets, electrical closets, production trucks, and even in Vince's personal private locker room. The only people who knew were the members of the clique and eventually Vince. Surprisingly, Vince actually approved. He had a strict rule back then about members of the crew not getting involved romantically, but he approved of us. That became apparent to me at one particular TV taping when Vince was behind Shawn and I in line for catering. He leaned in and asked, "So how are we doing?" with a clear emphasis on the we. Okay, Vinnie Mac, you caught us red-handed. It wasn't uncommon for Shawn and me to go at it 4 times in one day at a TV taping and a couple more times at night in our hotel. Members of the clique were designated to, quote-unquote, watch the door for whatever the locker room we decided to occupy. Usually it was Sean Waltman, the 1-2-3 Kid. I was still on the road with Chris Candido, keeping up the charade, so no one knew about Shawn and me, especially Chris. Even though we were just cohabitating, I didn't see any reason to upset him. This feels really, really weird to read in print in her book. But I want your kind of take on what she wrote there.
Well, obviously I never saw them having sex. There were rumor and innuendo all over the place about her relationship with Shawn.
Where do you first hear it?
Oh, God, I don't know. But, I mean, everybody was talking about it. It wasn't like they were hiding it. I mean, she probably thinks they were hiding it well. It's like the guy that goes out and sneaks that 12-pack in the middle of the day and thinks nobody can smell the beer on him and
right.
and knows that he's been out drinking. Everybody suspected it, and there were a lot of rumor and innuendo about it, and they didn't hide their affection in public. It was very obvious. And the general sentiment of the locker room and everybody else was more of not, oh my God, they're over there fucking, was poor Chris.
Right.
Because it just put Chris in a bad light and it put him in a horrible, awkward position.
Yeah.
If he bows up, He's blowing up, with Shawn and everybody, and Shawn was the man.
He's out of a job.
That's his fear. He's out of a job, and he's got, and in his mind, he's got to fight everybody, I guess. And on the other side of it, it's it's embarrassing and demoralizing as a man that your girlfriend that you're living with is, running around with another man, denying it to your face, and everybody else knows and is seeing it, and she's denying it to your face. So he was in a really tough quandary there. He definitely suspected it, and definitely heard the rumors, and definitely was internally battling it constantly on a daily basis.
I feel bad for him.
Oh, felt horrible. Jesus Christ, being there, you felt horrible for him. Because you wanted, you want to shake him.
But he's in a bad spot, like you said. What can he do?
Well, he could have walked away from her.
Sure.
He could have walked away from the situation.
But as far as most dudes listening to this will be like, I'll
go kick his ass.
Can't do that.
You want to confront the guy.
Yeah.
And you're in a bad situation. It's at work. It's the star of the show, and the star of the show's letting everybody know, don't fuck with me. So he's just in a lose-lose situation. The only thing that he could have done, in my opinion, was walk away from her and say, hey, you know what, man, go be happy next and move on. He was so in love with her, just head over heels in love with her, that she could have, she probably could have,
She actually wrote about that. She says, you're probably wondering if Chris ever knew about the affair I had with Shawn. I can honestly say I don't know. He never once brought it up to me, never once even questioned it. He never once asked me where I was for hours at night in a hotel while he waited on me up in our room. He never once questioned who I went to Jamaica with. He never once accused me of anything. Do I think he knew? Yes.
He knew. He definitely knew. And it ate him up.
Did any of the guys talk to him about it?
Yes.
Paul Bear in a shoot interview says he never got along with Sonny, and this was the primary reason. He felt bad for Chris and would try to talk him into handling things differently. Do you remember anybody else kind of taking him aside and having a talk like that?
Well, my poor brother, had to live it because he was teaming with Chris at the time. So he was the one having to deal with Chris's emotions on the other side.
Right.
And so he dealt with it quite a bit. And it was, what's the thing? Oh, it's one of those deals where, just poor Chris, man. He was in between a rock and a hard place. And again, the fact that he did nothing is people got to the point where they stopped feeling sorry for him and were kind of like, okay, dumbass. If you're not going to do anything, you're going to let this little girl run all over you and do this shit in your face, then you don't deserve anybody to feel bad for you. Because you're letting it happen, and you're not doing anything about it. You're not either kicking her to the curb or confronting him or just something, anything. But nothing basically made the situation worse.
Right.
For him and the way that guys looked at him. And then it became the viewpoint of Sonny and Shawn, kind of like, well, the boyfriend doesn't care. Why should we care?
Yeah. No, I get it. In her book, she details a big vacation they took together where she claims Shawn had Vince give her the time off to take a vacation with him to Jamaica. But what I want to discuss here is what comes from her being there for him and taking care of him. Not necessarily the vacation after, but what led up to her taking care of him. He was beat up. This is going to Syracuse, October of 95. This is now an internet legendary story where he had an issue with some Marines in a bar. Can you clear up what happened to the best of your knowledge with that incident?
What, the Marines in the bar?
Yeah.
There are a lot of different stories from that night, and the general consensus is Shawn got his ass kicked by allegedly 4 to 6 Marines in a bar outside of Syracuse. I think.
Right. That's right.
And, they beat the shit out of him. They did a hell of a number on him. He ended up in the hospital. He was in the hospital for a few days. And that was the situation that led to him vacating the Intercontinental title due to the concussion and
To Dean Douglas,
right. And, yeah, Shawn was in a bad way. But he had been out with, I think, Bulldog and 1, 2, 3 Kid.
That's right.
And everybody was messed up. And Shawn got beat up pretty bad. It was a messed up deal.
So supposedly Bulldog comes and gets her from her hotel room where she's sleeping, obviously with Chris, and says, hey, Shawn's hurt. He's been beat up. She spends a bunch of time at the hospital right by his side taking care of him. And so then he offers to take her on vacation. She gets the time off from Vince, or Shawn actually arranges that. And she goes into ridiculous detail about this. This is almost embarrassing. I know that I'm just a horrible person for sharing this, but she wrote it, so I'm going to ask about what you think about her sharing this. By the 3rd day, we were both so sore that we had to take a break. We were having sex 10 times a day, all day, every day. Up until then and ever since then, Shawn is the best partner I ever had. He just knew what to do, and he was so sensual while he did it. We made love like champs. He did have this one small, strange fetish, though. He liked to bend me over the bathroom counter and watch me as he did me from behind while I was applying ruby red lipstick over and over, just applying thick coats until I looked like Joker from Batman. I never really understood what he got out of it, but it turned him on something fierce and got him rock hard. Can you believe somebody would write this?
Yeah, I have no comment on that.
This is a fucking married guy of many, many years.
Yeah.
And she wrote all this.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
Can you defend this? This feels like...
I can't.
I go from feeling kind of sad about, man, look at what happened to... And then I read this, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I just don't think there's any need for that stuff.
I feel bad even saying that, but... I can't believe this is a thing, man.
Well, the only thing I can say to that is that was Shawn Michaels of then, and but again, because he does have kids, and I empathize with that, and I empathize with the man that he is now, and the man that he is now, and the man that he was then, are, in my opinion, are
no. There's
two different
nothing wrong
people.
with what he's doing here. I'm not judging.
No, I'm not either. I'm just saying the fact that she wrote it and put it out there for the world, and I just kind of like, God
that's
damn,
some super
why?
private. What are you doing?
Right, and
this is not for.
And those are moments that you just what you said were private that you hope would remain private.
Wow. So let's follow up with something wrestling related for a minute.
But also to that fact, on the aftermath of that, when they came back, she walked around the dressing rooms with pictures of them in Jamaica and showed everybody.
Serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was another one of those, okay, hey, Chris, where did you think she was all this time? And she's showing everybody pictures. So it wasn't like, well, there's a question. It wasn't rumored innuendo. There wasn't suggestions. It was she was showing pictures to everyone.
I found this to be a little off-putting, too. She somewhat blames this vacation on her struggles with alcohol in the book. She writes, one night, when Shawn was ordering his regular Dewar's and soda, I told him I'd have one too. He looked at me confused, but you don't drink, are you sure? I told him yes, and that one drink wouldn't kill me. After all, we were on vacation, and this was vacation of a lifetime. So I had my first drink, ever, at 23 years old, a Dewar's and soda. It was Shawn's drink, it was the Click's drink, it was Vince's drink. Just one drink, then two, then three. I don't know how many I had, but I had a really good buzz going, and I wasn't falling over myself drunk. The next morning, I felt fine, no hangover at all. And I figured that since I didn't get crazy drunk and I didn't get sick afterwards, that I might as well have more fun on the trip and keep drinking. What harm could it do, right? Wrong. These few casual drinks on a vacation at 23 years old were the beginning of the end for me, as you'll read later. So she's kind of half-assed blaming. It's just weird to me I became an alcoholic because I drank the drink that Vince McMahon drinks.
Well,
and
Vince,
that the Click drinks.
Vince didn't drink soda with his scotch.
No.
He drank Double Doers on the rocks.
It's still just interesting to me.
It's a cop-out.
It's super weird. She writes how she helped Shawn decorate and design the house he was building in Texas, and that he asked her to move in. She didn't move in, so he broke up with her at the television convention in Las Vegas. And shortly thereafter, she writes that he met the woman who would become his wife, got married, and had kids. And she openly wonders and wishes if this could have been her life in her book. It seems really, really weird to me to share all that personal information and then say, I wonder if I could have had his kids. And it's a dude who's been married for well over a decade. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that she has had a challenged life.